So I'm delighted to have with me today Tina Dinger, who's a senior vice president at Northwest Bank, which is currently headquartered in Ohio. I knew it when it was headquartered in Warren, Pennsylvania. And Tina heads up the Enterprise Project Management Office at Northwest, which is a $20 billion institution that does a lot of different things in a lot of different lines of business. So I'm delighted to have Tina here. I've known her for a number of years. How long has Northwest had an enterprise project management office, Tina?
We've been an enterprise project management office for about 4.5 years. But prior to that, and when I joined the bank back in 2007, I was actually in the IT organization. So I was the one and only project manager and built out an IT PMO before we became an enterprise service.
So that's probably where a lot of people cut their teeth in project management on IT projects. But as we get into the conversation, I think you've discovered, as a lot of senior bankers have, that this is a broader issue and involves things that clearly involve technology, but other areas as well. So to define for me project management as you see it, what are project management skills?
Yeah. So it was interesting. And when you asked me that question to kind of think about what's project management, I looked up the definition. There's like a paragraph, and I thought, oh gosh, nobody's going to understand that. No wonder this is kind of an interesting profession. But really, project management in simplest terms is the use of specific knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to deliver something of value to the organization, whether that be technology, whether that be support of an acquisition, a business process improvement initiative, new product and service. So really, the gamut of things, but it's really about using specific tools, techniques to deliver value.
I think that's a great definition and a good starting point. Some of the followers of NedTalks may have seen Jeff Marsico's conversation with me a month or so ago. And Jeff is the president of the Cathafian Group, which does a lot of work with community banks around the country. And he was talking about things that community banks need to do better. And one of the first thing he mentioned was project management. And so we started talking about it. And I think he would agree with you. This is a broad area. It does focus on things like productivity. It does focus on things like execution and getting things across the finish line. What are the skills that a project manager has to have in order to be successful?
Yeah. So I think first and foremost, a good project manager has to have some basic essential skills. Obviously, strong organizational skills, detail-oriented, effective communicators, both written, verbal, as well as really active listening skills. And they have to be goal-oriented and self-starters. I mean, they are the ones that the team is expecting, right, to help lead this initiative. So really, those are out of the gate essential skills for a project manager. Technical skills. The Project Management Institute in their body of knowledge has 10 knowledge areas. Now, it's a lot to learn, especially if you're going to become a certified project manager. But there's really 4 key areas, 3 of which, for those who are familiar with project management, really are around what project management calls the triple constraints. And there's skills that include scope, the ability to ensure that all the project work that needs to be done is included, or maybe more importantly, what's not or shouldn't be included. Schedule. They've got to have the ability to build out a schedule and to be able to manage that schedule appropriately. Cost management, ability and skill to plan, estimate, manage, and control the project finances. So that's really what makes up the 3 triple constraints. But in addition to, I think the 4th most critical skill is the ability to manage risk. They have to be able to identify and assess where problems are arising within the project and be able to mitigate those appropriately. So I think those are really the 4 key technical skills that a project manager needs. In addition to leadership and soft skills, which also you have to be a strong leader.
So you mentioned the Project Management Institute, which has served project managers well for years and years, and there are certifications in it. Say a banker is interested in learning more about project management. What advice would you give what advice would you give me?
Yeah. And I actually took a lot of my core foundational training through certified training offered by the PMI org. And there's a plethora of trainings available. They have from boot camps that are 2 hours to 4 hours in length to 4 weeks, or I'm not sorry, 4 weeks, 4 days that you can go out and research and get training there. One that we're using for certification is through Skillsoft, and Skillsoft offers a self-paced foundational training that you can earn your professional development units that you actually need in order to become a certified project manager, as well as LinkedIn Learning now has project management foundational training, which we haven't leveraged that yet, but I looked at their curriculum and it's spot on, and I think maybe a little bit less expensive than the Skillsoft options.
So one of the things that I have said to people is that if I look at people who are successful commercial relationship managers, which is the audience that I typically deal with, or business bankers, the best ones, in my view, have extraordinarily good project management skills, particularly if they're dealing with key accounts. But they have to do some of the stuff you're talking about. They have to be good communicators. They have to have an appreciation of the risks, and the risks could be, minimal in some respects. But if you're trying to involve various people in implementing a cash management conversion or anything, you have to have those skills to be an effective relationship manager. Where would relationship managers go to develop this? Would it be the same sources?
I think anybody really can benefit from project management type training. And I always say there's two parts of a project manager. There's the technical side that we talked about, and I mentioned scope and schedule, but there's the leadership aspect of it. And really that type of training you can get anywhere. Our bank offers a very specific management and leadership training curriculum that I'm sure other community or commercial banks offer. And I would highly recommend that sales folks take advantage of that training that they're being offered beyond just what they're doing in their day-to-day job, but just hone in on those leadership skills.
Yeah, I think that's good advice. So I'm going to ask you to sort of put yourself in the shoes of a community bank senior executive, which you are, but maybe one that hasn't gotten to the point of establishing a project management office or even investing a lot in the people. At what point do they need to think about doing that?
Yeah. Well, I think there's a couple of answers here, but one, I think unfortunately, a lot of times the recognition that you need a project manager or you need to build out that capability within your organization is a little too late in some cases. You're working on a project, it's already over budget, you're not meeting the schedule, or maybe even worse, it's not actually meeting the expectations of the benefit that you're trying to derive. But the other thing I'm seeing, and I'm sure is occurring, is that you have managers or executives who are splitting their time between trying to manage initiatives that they're responsible for and doing their day-to-day job, and they're getting burnt out. And so you have to, recognize when are you spending more time trying to build new or are you spending your time doing day-to-day operational work. And so when that balance becomes more on the project management side, it's probably time to invest in a project manager or two. I think the other area where banks could evaluate the need for project management is when they're doing strategic planning. And if they're starting to see multiple enterprise level projects that will require coordination across different areas of the bank, and you've got more than one or two, investing in either a contract PM or a full-time PM within the organization is probably beneficial at that point.
Define what a contract PM arrangement might look like.
Yeah, so there's a lot of consulting firms that offer contract project managers. One area where I find that they would be most useful within an organization is when you're doing something very specific. And Ned, you and I first started working together on a CRM, customer relationship management implementation. And so that does take a certain level of knowledge and understanding of the complexity of that type of project. And so consulting and having a contract PM who has specific experience, such as in Microsoft Dynamics or even Salesforce, might be beneficial, even if you have your own project management staff, but you just don't have that expertise within the team.
Yeah, in my experience, a lot of the contract project management is valuable if there's something unique about the implementation. So you made reference to Salesforce. There are people that are specialists in Salesforce who I assume are very well equipped to assist an organization in introducing Salesforce and implementing it. That said, there's also extremely important reasons why the bank needs to have people who can actually run those projects.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So Tina, this has been helpful to me. Do you have any other thoughts on project management that you would like to share before we sign off?
Yeah, I was going to say, I think one of the things that as organizations are looking at whether they want to build out that expertise internally or they want to, rely on potentially a vendor is just think about the value that an internal PM or project management expertise is really around understanding the company culture. You're not going to get that from a contract PM, right? They understand and they know who the go-to people are within the organization when they need to get things done. And they also, I think, have a vested interest in the outcome and the deliverable to which they're responsible for. So certainly you can contract for project management on an as-needed basis, but an internal project management capability in the long term, I think, will better serve banks.
Great advice. Tina, thank you for sharing your thoughts on project management. For my money, you're one of the best. So thank you for participating in this NedTalks.
Thanks, Ned. It was my pleasure.